Once upon a time, in a small lively village of Udi, a baby girl was born under extraordinary circumstances. Her name was Adanna, meaning father's daughter. But Adanna was not just any baby. Her mother, Uzoamaka, carried her for 20 long months, twice as long as a typical pregnancy. Everyone in Udi whispered about the mystery of her birth, wondering what kind of child she would become. Her parents has been childless for several years, and because they had finally conceived her, Uzoamaka was determined to have a baby, no matter the side talks. The night Adana was born, the sky erupted into a violent storm. Thunder roared, and lightning tore through the heavens, as if the gods themselves were watching. Uzoamaka, in a small hut, cried out in pain as the rain beat against the roof. Her husband Chike paced nervously, but by her side stood Nneka, the village midwife, known for her steady hands and wise heart. When Adanna finally emerged into the world, Nneka's breath caught in her throat. The child was unique, born with both male and female private parts. Chike and Uzoamaka were terrified of what this meant, not for themselves, but for their beloved daughter. "Please," Uzoamaka whispered, her voice trembling with fear and love, "don't tell anyone. We will give you anything you demand from us. You know we have been trying to have a child for many years now. We can't just let this precious jewel that was given to us go, no matter how she looks physically. If you don't help us keep this secret, this baby will be taken from us and offered to the sacred beast of Udi as a sacrifice. Please help us." Nneka looked into the innocent eyes of the baby cradled in Uzoamaka's arms and nodded solemnly. "I will keep her secret," she promised, sealing the pact that would shape Adanna's future. As Adanna grew, her parents' love for her deepened, but so did their worry. She was a quiet child, often preferring to play alone in the shadows of her home. She avoided the village stream where other children bathed and played. Even when she needed to relieve herself, she would sneak away to places no one could see. The other children thought she was just shy, whispering, "Adanna likes to play alone," but they had no idea about the secret she carried. As the years passed, Adanna grew into a kind and gentle girl. The village of Udi began to admire her not only for her beauty and grace, but also for her kind-heartedness. Her long dark hair and gentle smile captivated everyone. The elders often said, "She is destined for greatness." And though Adanna blushed at their words, inside she felt a deep loneliness, haunted by her secret. Adanna had come of marriageable age, and the villagers started to whisper about why she had not married. Some said maybe her prolonged pregnancy term was the reason for her delay in marriage, while others suggested that she might not be ordinary, that perhaps she was of the spirits, an Ogbanje. The whispers grew. Uzoamaka and Chike, Adanna's parents, grew worried. They feared that if she didn't marry soon, the village might discover her secret, so they advised their daughter to marry quickly. A few months later, the most handsome and respected man in the village asked for Adanna's hand in marriage. His name was Chukwuemeka. Chukwuemeka was strong, kind, and he was deeply in love with Adanna. When Adanna agreed to marry him, the entire village erupted in celebration. The wedding was a grand affair. Drum pounded, colorful fabrics adorned the villagers, and Adanna wore a beautiful dress that made her beauty radiate like the morning sun. But despite the joy around her, Adana felt a growing fear inside. Though she was now married, how could she fulfill her marital duties as a wife? How could she reveal this great secret to her husband without causing chaos? Adana was thrown into another dilemma. Each night after their marriage, Chukwuemeka would hold her close, trying to consummate their marriage. But Adana would gently push him away, giving several excuses. I am on my cycle, my love. I don't feel too well. Oh, my head hurts. My back aches, she would say softly. Chukwuemeka, patient and loving, accepted her excuses at first because he loved her deeply, thinking she's mine anyway. I can just be a little more patient. But as the weeks passed, tension grew in their home. Chukwuemeka did everything humanly possible to please Adana, hoping to win her favor, but his efforts proved abortive. His frustration boiled over. The whispers of the womb watchers did not help either. Why is she not pregnant yet? Is she barren? Is he impotent? They whispered amongst themselves. But how could Adana be pregnant when they hadn't even consummated their union? Eventually, Chukwuemeka grew tired. He decided to visit Uzomaka and Chike, Adana's parents, to explain the situation and seek their advice. When he reached their hut, he explained how Adana had refused him for months and constantly gave excuses while they couldn't be intimate. He asked if there was something he should know. Adana's parents, who knew of the secret she has been carrying, told him to be patient. They reassured him that whatever the problem was, Adana would tell him when she was ready. Chukwuemeka left Adana's parents' house with a heavier burden than when he arrived. He decided to seek the counsel of the village elders, thinking they might have a solution to his problem. When Chukwuemeka brought his concern to the council of elders, they were shocked. Never have they heard of a woman refusing to consummate her marriage without a good reason. The elders summoned Adana to the council and asked if what Chukwuemeka said was true and why she had rejected her husband for so long. Adana, visibly shaking with fear, was short of words. She couldn't provide a cogent reason for her refusal of intimacy. The elders, now angry, ordered the village midwives to physically examine Adana to check if there was something biologically wrong with her. Upon hearing this, Adana panicked. She wailed and screamed, "Don't touch me! Don't touch me!" She struggled with the midwives, but they overpowered her and dragged her into a room. There she was stripped naked, and they all gasped, their eyes widened in shock. Adana was a man and a woman. She had both male and female private parts. The head of the midwives reported her findings to the elders, and soon chaos erupted. The entire village now know about the secret Adana had hidden well all these years. Some said, "I knew something was wrong with her." Others whispered, "I pity Chukwuemeka who married a man." Chukwuemeka was heartbroken and devastated. Why couldn't she trust him enough to tell him her secret? He loved her so much and still loved her, regardless of her secret. When Adana's parents heard the news, they were distraught. Their world came crashing down. How could they save their only daughter now that the truth was out in the open? They cried bitterly. Adana was thrown into a cell, awaiting execution. The elders were to hold a meeting to determine her fate. Chukwuemeka, unable to stand the thought of losing her, visited Adana in the cell. They cried together. "My love, why didn't you tell me the truth? Why did you allow me to drag you in the open like this?" Chukwuemeka asked, his voice filled with anguish. Adana apologized and explained that she was scared of this chaos her secret would cause if revealed. It had been too late now. The whole village knew, and she had to prepare for whatever was next. Chukwuemeka left the cell, a hollow shell of himself, blaming himself for not being patient enough. That night, he made up his mind to save his wife, no matter her private parts. He loved her and he couldn't lose her. He went to the elders early the next morning and declared, "I want my wife back. I don't care if she has both male and female body parts. I love her and I want her back." The council of elders, shocked by his outburst, reminded him that Adana must be sacrificed to the beast of the forest of Udi to cleanse the land of the abomination of her existence. Chukwuemeka, consumed by anger, confronted the elders. "I will rain fire on Udi if anyone happens to touch a hair on her head." The elders, insulted and enraged, had Chukwuemeka thrown into a cell next to Adana's. The day of the sacrifice arrived, and the people of Udi gathered in large numbers, carrying leaves in their hands, singing and chanting battle songs. They clamored for the abomination, Adana, to be sacrificed to the village beast to appease the gods. Adana was brought forth. She was forced to wear a plain white wrapper. Her hands and legs were tied with ropes. Her parents stood afar, watching the drama unfold before their eyes, helpless. They could only pray and wish their only daughter a painless exit from this wicked world. Chukwuemeka, who was still held in the village cell, cried out in frustration and helplessness. He gripped the iron bars of the cell with all his might, shaking it with anger, but the gates didn't budge, as they were made with strong metals to hold prisoner in with no hope of escape. Back at the village square, the chief priest, who had heard about the commotion going on in the village, stepped forward and said, "The gods are silent." His voice grave. "They have not spoken. This girl," he said, pointing his hand to Adana, "had not done anything wrong. She didn't wish to be born this way, and it is only a creator that can determine the reason that she was born this way. So I would implore everybody to postpone this sacrifice until the gods speak. She is innocent and should not be punished because she is simply different from the others." He implored the village to not make any rash decision that would bring calamity upon them. But the village elders, who were not in agreement with what the chief priest said, insisted that Adana must be sacrificed that very day. The chief priest, seeing that the voices of the people overshadows his own, and there was nothing he could possibly do to save Adana, he came forth with a calabash filled with water. The entire village stood in silence, wondering what the chief priest was about to do. The chief priest began. "I have warned you," he said, pointing to the crowd, "about the doom that would befall this village if you sacrifice an innocent woman. But you have refused to take heed." As he was speaking, he dipped his two hands into the calabash of water and washed his hands. He continued, "I wash my hands free from the curse that will befall this land if you sacrifice Adana. I am not a party to this, and my lineage will not bear any curse that would befall this land." The villagers stood frozen. Fear gripped them, and they started whispering about the possibility of a curse befalling them if Adana was sacrificed, without hearing from the gods. And so some of the villagers started washing their hands, saying that they did not want their families to be cursed. They implored the elders to return Adana to her family. But the village elders stood with pride on their faces, insisted that the sacrifice must go on. The villagers, seeing what was going on, began to leave the village square one by one, their hearts heavy as they returned to their various huts. The elders ordered the village youth to take Adana into the sacred forest where the beast lives. Adanna's mind was blank at this point. She had hoped that something greater would save her life, but nothing. And so she made peace with herself and also with her husband, Chukwuemeka. She also apologized to him the previous night and pleaded with him to take care of her parents after she was gone. Chukwuemeka also begged for her forgiveness for dragging her out into danger when he should in fact be protecting her. She forgave Chukwuemeka. She knew it wasn't his fault. She blamed herself for not confiding in him when she had the opportunity to. When they got to the edge of the sacred forest, the elders told the youth to untie Adana's hand. They ordered Adana to walk by herself into the deep and dreary forest, where she knew she would never return. Adana, with tears in her eyes, started walking into the deep forest. The elders and youth returned back to their various houses. Something remarkable happened that day. The sky that was bright and sunny suddenly turned blood red and dark. Thunder and lightning roared. Fear gripped the people of Udi. The tallest palm tree at the village square was struck by lightning, and it was consumed by fire. The village was in chaos. People ran helter-skelter, looking for where to hide. The chief priest, seeing the calamity in the village, sat in his chamber with sadness in his eyes. Back in the forest, Adana had been trekking for hours. She was tired and thirsty. She sat on the forest floor, resting her back against a big baobab tree, her eyes closed from exhaustion. Suddenly, she heard a mighty roar and a bright shining light from a distance. Fear gripped her. She tried to get up and run in the opposite direction, but her legs couldn't move. She was stuck on her knees. The roar got louder. Adana shut her eyes as she was stuck to her position, her heart pounding in her chest. Is this how it ends? She asked herself, tears streaming down her face. After a moment, she felt a mighty aura around her. Light enveloped her. The roars stopped, and she felt the presence of something greater. She reluctantly opened her eyes to see what was in front of her. She gasped at the sight of the sacred beast. It was a majestic beast with wide fur-color, purer than anything that she had ever known. Adana was astonished. She thought the sacred beast was a vile and wicked creature who destroyed anything in its path. But this beast standing before her was giving off pure energy. Adana felt a deep connection to the beast. It was as if it could read her mind and see through her soul. Suddenly, something entered Adana, something unexplainable. It was like light. It was also like a gush of air. It was simply unexplainable. Adana, who was previously kneeling on the forest floor, her wrapper dirty, was transformed. She was now suspended in the air like the beast. Her dirty wrapper transformed into a white robe shining with divine glow. Her eyes turned white. The leaves on the forest floor began to twirl in the wind. Thunder roared and lightning erupted. Adana fell into a trance. The entire forest was covered with bright lights. When Adana woke up from her trance, she found herself at the edge of the forest, dressed in a white glowing robe. In her trance, an old woman with long silver hair, wearing a white glowing robe, spoke to her. The old woman told Adana that she was a pure woman, both in body and soul. Her heart was pure. She loved her people genuinely and harbored no hatred towards her village, despite all that she had endured. And that was why the sacred beast had spared her life. He had even bestowed her with blessing and removed the male organ which has caused her pain for so many years. She was now a free woman. Adana cried, not because she was in pain, but because she was free. Back at the villagers were still running around in chaos. They lost track of time. They couldn't tell if it was noon or morning. The sky had been blood red and dark for what felt like an eternity. The villagers, scared, started to beg for forgiveness. Some, afraid that the end had come, began to confess their sins on their knees, tears streaming down their faces. The houses of the elders who had insisted that Adana should be sacrificed was struck by lightning and set ablaze. When the elders saw this, they ran to the chief priest, begging him to intercede to the gods on their behalf. But the chief priest turned his back on them. Suddenly, the chaos that had befallen the village stopped. The sky, which was blood red and dark, suddenly became clear, and the sun rose up. The lightning and thunder ceased. The villagers stood in surprise. What could have happened? Has the gods forgiven us? They asked among themselves. As they whispered amongst themselves, someone in the crowd shouted, "See, Adana had returned." The villagers turned to see her, and they were shocked. It was Adana. She had finally returned. She returned as a whole woman blessed by the gods. Her white robe was glowing, her eyes glowing. The villagers fell on their knees, begging for forgiveness. Adana, with a smile on her face, told them that she had forgiven them. They looked at her in awe as she walked through the crowd. When her parents heard that she had returned, they rushed to the village square to see their daughter, and they were overjoyed to see their daughter back in one piece. Chukwuemeka, who was previously thrown into the cell, was released. He hugged Adana tightly, whispering, "I'm sorry, my love. Please forgive me." Adana nodded and smiled at him. She whispered, "It is gone." Chukwuemeka, confused about what she meant by "it is gone," asked in a low voice, "What is gone, my love?" Adana replied, "The thing that has caused me pain all these years is gone." Chukwuemeka immediately understood what she meant. He hugged her tightly, tears streaming down his face. The village elders, who had insisted that Adana should be sacrificed, fell on their knees before Adana, begging with tears and terror on their faces, "My daughter, please forgive us. We didn't know better." Adana, with a smile on her face, told them to get up, that she had forgiven them. Adana reunited with her parents and her husband, who were glad to know that her male private part was gone. The village rejoiced that a great calamity was averted and Adana was now a full woman. Adana and Chukwuemeka bore 6 children, and they lived their lives in joy, surrounded by their beautiful children. Uzoamaka and Chike, Adana's parents, were glad to see their children, and the entire village of Udi had Adana's story forever ingrained in their hearts. If you found this story interesting, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to like our videos and leave a comment, as this will help grow our channel. Thank you for watching.